You've heard of the 3 R's, right? I mean, who hasn't? Those little the 3 arrows that are in the triangle with usually a number in the middle. That's the recycling symbol, right? We've all come to recognize this so easily. And we see it everywhere. Matter of fact, sometimes I think we kind of get a little numb to it and we just think, okay, it can be recycled, end of story. But there's a lot more to it. And what if there's a 4th R? So let's back up a sec.
Living green or sustainably is about more than saving on your electric bill and doing your part to protect natural resources. It is about a safer and healthier life for you and your family without sacrificing style, quality, or budget. This is a movement to provide all of us with clean air to breathe and water to drink, safe, healthy food to eat, and places to live, and energy to run the places where we live, learn, work, and play. Join your hosts, Marla Esser-Close, the Green Home Coach, and Tony Pratte of the Sound Room to learn how everyday green homes work for you, your family, and your community.
Hi, I'm Marla, the Green Home Coach, and I am the host of the Everyday Green Home podcast, and I am so happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to share this journey with me as we all learn about ways to do better, have a better home, have a healthier life, a healthier community, and learn something along the way, improve our lives along the way. So today I want to talk about the 3 R's, right? You remember these, the 3 R's in recycling, right? The triangle that we talked about. So you remember what 3 R's stand for? Reduce, reuse, recycle. And the whole theory of all this is that you do them in this order. So first you reduce what you use, then you reuse what you can't reduce, and then only as a last option, you recycle whatever cannot be reused or cannot be reduced. Pretty good theory. I think a lot of times we kind of forget that those should come in that order. And sometimes we kind of shortcut and think, oh, it can be recycled, so it's fine. I can use it. Kind of like a license to steal. Sorry to be so blunt. But just because something is recycled doesn't mean it can easily be recycled in your community. And more importantly, it doesn't mean it will get recycled. Matter of fact, if you look up the statistics online, how much we recycle is not so good, not so great. So we're really needing to rethink how we use stuff, right? We've always thought of it in a kind of a linear approach that stuff comes out from a manufacturer, we use it, and we throw it away. We talk a lot about away and where away is. Matter of fact, you're going to hear more about that in just a few minutes. So I've actually pulled I like a lot of our podcasts, but this is an episode that Tony and I did talking about the idea of a 4th R. Right? A 4th R. That 4th R is refuse. So rather than having an opportunity to use and need to reduce, reuse, or recycle something, just refuse. Just don't use it. So for instance, when you go to a restaurant and they offer you a straw, if you don't need it, don't take it and tell them not to bring it, because usually once it hits the table, they have to throw it away anyway. But this whole idea of refuse just says, hey, I want you to reconsider what you're giving me. And you go through the drive-thru. Do you need utensils? No, that's refusing. So adding this 4th R in really adds a little bit more of a dynamic about how our behavior and our choices can affect all of the stuff that comes into our lives and the life cycle of it. So listen in and join me on this really fun and interesting, I would say fun, a little tongue-in-cheek, but we really kind of dive into this whole conversation and what you can do about it and why it is so important. As always, please be sure to subscribe to the podcast and like it, and let me know what topics you'd like us to cover. I am, again, so thrilled to have you listen in to the 4th R. Welcome to the Everyday Green Home Podcast. This is Marla, the Green Home Coach. And I'm, as always, thrilled to have on the microphone with me today my regular guest co-host. I guess that's what I can call you, Tony.
You can call me whatever you want.
Well, introduce yourself real quick, just in case we've got some new listeners.
Okay. I am Tony Pratte with the Sound Room. Welcome to our little podcast.
Our little podcast is getting bigger every day.
It does. It really does.
Yes. I love that about podcasts.
Small idea with a large reach.
There you go. Totally. Well, it's fun to look back and see how it's evolved since you and I started doing this in early 2016. And hard to believe that we've been doing that this long.
Gosh, yeah, really, when you think about it, I can't believe it's been 4 years.
Yeah, crazy.
More than 4 years.
Well, we started, the first podcast were February of 2016.
Yeah.
And you were then a regular co-host, not a guest co-host. We went to the guest model, folks, for those of you listening to the details. When I moved to Oklahoma City, Tony's in St. Louis, where I used to live. And over time, it just made more sense for us to record on a guest basis as opposed to all the time.
Well, I mean, you were in a new location. And to be honest, I mean, you are the driving force behind the podcast. I am just here for guest commentary and, the funny quip or two.
Well, I appreciate all that you provide. And you know that. You know that. Seeing that we're recording this in July, we're still in the midst of the pandemic. Have no idea what that end looks like. And it actually plays, the pandemic has played into the topic that we want to talk about today. And I hope to give people a new way to think about things. And whether we're right or wrong or left or right or up or down or whatever, all we seek to do on this podcast is to give you some new ways to think about things. And we talk a lot about green and sustainability and high performance homes and things that you may or may not know anything about. And along with that is a lot of the living habits that we each embrace as we go about our day-to-day living. And I don't think any of us will put up any resistance to the fact that day-to-day living has changed. What do you think, Tony?
Well, you make a great point. You want to give people a new way of thinking. Well, right now we're seeing just total shifts in the paradigms that we're used to.
Oh, gosh, yes.
So this is a great opportunity to just talk about doing things a different way or seeing things from a different light.
Yeah.
Because everything that we thought was just our normal life is pretty much changed, and it's all flipped upside down.
Boom!
Yeah, there is really, the only thing that is normal is chaos.
I was going to say change, but chaos works too.
No, I like chaos right now. This is not just change. Change is, hey, I'm going to wear the red shirt today instead of the blue one. This is basically total chaos to our lives because it's turned them upside down, While I still go to the office every day, one of my best friends, he hasn't went into the office in, I guess probably 4 months. I was with him. He's in IT and he works for MasterCard. So a global provider, global company. And I was talking to him over the weekend about, are you going back? And he's like, well, we have 2 shifts that we call them the A team and the B team. And they basically rotate time in the office.
I know a lot of bankers doing that.
Then we have our C team, which is, they're the essentials that always have to be there. And he goes, I'm on the D team.
Oh.
We never have to go in. I'm like, well, I don't know if I'd want to be called the D team, but if you're content with that, go for it. And I'm like, why are your essentials the C team? Shouldn't they be the A team? Just semantics and all that. But I mean, it's totally changed for so many people, and it has turned our lives into chaos.
Well, and it's strange to, before we move on to the topic, our lives, mine and Scott's, my husband's, ours didn't change a lot. But we'd already been in this really weird, abnormal world with all of his health issues for the past year and a half.
Right.
And we were just really kind of coming out of it. So it's kind of like, whoa, here we go with more. But in some respects, we found we already had habits. We already had, routines that we could fall back on very easily or expand. And we jokingly and really kind of not so jokingly have offered, free stay-at-home classes for whomever would like to take them.
Okay.
But, I've worked out of a home office for all but 4 years over most of my career.
Well, and that's a separate skill that you do have to learn.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to be productive. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of companies were always hesitant to let people work at home.
And look what they've learned.
Yeah, they learned all of a sudden, hey, life didn't stop. The company still moved forward. Maybe I don't.
They're still productive.
Maybe I don't need this big office. Maybe I can go with a smaller office and have more remote workers. I think we're going to see a lot of changes over the next 5 years because of this.
I believe you're right. When I worked for IBM, that was where I first started telecommuting. I was one of the first people in our location that telecommuted with IBM. And that was one thing they found out. They could reallocate how they use space. But a lot of people that didn't need to be in the office, I was in sales. I shouldn't be in an office when I'm in.
No, you should be out.
Yeah. So it made a lot of sense.
I think there's a lot of positive changes that will come out of all this.
I do too. And I'm a big believer in silver linings. And with that, I'm going to segue into what we want to talk about today. You and I did a podcast a couple of years ago called The 3 R's. Mm-hmm. And I think everybody's heard of the 3 R's because they accompany the 3 arrow logo that we're so used to seeing, that we think of as the recycling logo. But the 3 R's actually include reduce, reuse, recycle. Do you remember why they're in that order?
I can't remember exactly why we talked about they're in that particular order. It was a couple years ago. And I am blind.
Are you saying I snagged you?
You did. So why don't you tell our listeners why they're in that particular order?
Okay. So reduce first. So reduce what you use. Just use as much as you need. Reuse second. Whatever you do still have around, how can you reuse it or how can you share it with others? And that's one thing I'm seeing a lot of during the pandemic is people sharing like yard equipment and big pieces of stuff that you don't necessarily need to use every day or every week. So that reuse can really extend to one item being used a lot of places. And then lastly is recycle. And this really should be the last resort for an item, that you only recycle it after you cannot figure out any other way to make it useful. So the whole idea of this trio of actions is to extend the life of an item so that we don't need to manufacture and use the materials up to make a new item nearly as soon. It's just like extending the life of a car or your home or your motorcycle or your bicycle. That means that we don't have to buy a new one as soon. Because every time we buy something new, there's some pros and some cons. So first of all, it takes energy, people, and thought power, transportation to make something new and to get it out to the public, right? But that also creates jobs. It creates revenue. So there's positive impacts as well. So there's a balance with all this, right?
Well, there's a balance with everything.
Oh, absolutely.
The one thing about today, especially with rich economies, is the mindset becomes, oh, we're in a disposable society.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of times where, because they're in that mindset, it becomes disposable for everything. Oh, hey, you know what? I just got a brand new TV. Well, didn't you get a TV last year? Well, yeah, but the new one's out and it's only X amount of dollars. I mean, I was with a client today and I said, there's 2 things in life when it comes to TVs that we know are always going to happen. 1, they're always getting bigger. And 2, they're always getting cheaper. So just because it's a bigger TV and a cheaper TV doesn't mean you actually have to go out and buy that other TV. And I work for an electronics retailer.
I know.
I have clients that have to have the latest and the greatest.
So that's the perfect segue into what I'm going to call the 4th R.
Perfect.
And that's refuse. So just flat out refusing things that you don't need. And that is, it's very tightly coupled with reuse. We're starting to, or reduce, reuse too. But this whole idea of refuse, we're starting to see, especially with single-use items and single-use plastic items. So on that high note, I'm going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to dive in more as to how you can take some action to refuse. Just say no. Be right back. You probably don't have the time, resources, or know-how to research and shop for better options for you and your world. That's why I've done it for you. The Everyday Green Home Shop is my curated collection of better products for a safer, healthier, more comfortable life in your home. Through simple buying choices, you can change your home easily. My book laid out the how to do it. Now, the Everyday Green Home Shop gives you a place to put those ideas into action with your buying choices. I invite you to look through the online shop and choose an item or two to swap for something you usually buy for your home. Once you make a selection, it will take you to one of my trusted affiliate sites or the Amazon site you already use. Super easy. Products on Everyday Green Home range from indoor-outdoor rugs made from recycled plastic to my husband's favorite reusable silicone straw that fits in his pocket. I look for third-party independent green labels or go through a trusted third-party verification process to validate the products I curate for you. Go to everydaygreenhome.com for what you need to create a stylish, safer, and healthier home easily. So Tony and I are gabbing away about this whole concept of refuse. And Tony, what you were saying offline was really hitting a chord. And we think of refuse really with single-use items, straws, plastic bags, disposable cups, disposable silverware, things like that come to mind. But you brought up a really good point that we've really kind of adopted this just use it and throw it away mindset for big things.
Well, it's for things that change. Technology changes constantly, whether it's your, router for your house. But most importantly, the biggest thing people see is the TVs. They're constantly changing every year. They're updating. They're getting cheaper. They're getting larger. And so many people are like, I got to have that latest and greatest.
And none of this stuff's upgradable anymore. You used to be able, I remember having a PC years ago and I could upgrade it 2 or 3 times before I needed to buy a new one.
Yeah, get a different motherboard, get, more storage, more RAM, whatever. Yeah, you can't do that anymore with TVs.
It's like everything's a closed system and you can't mess with it once you have it.
TVs are, hey, I'm going to run to Costco. I'm going to pick up this new 75-inch for $400. I'm going to take it home. The next year, I'm going to go get my new 85-inch for $600 and take it home.
And then what do you do with the old one?
Well, you know what? That's a good question. You either find a room for it, you give it away, or you end up throwing it away. That's what most people do.
Okay, so let's look at it in the terms of the 3 R's. So the first option would be...
Because you really can't reduce, so you'd have to reuse it. So you give it away.
Or repurpose it in another room.
Yep.
Or maybe it becomes your computer monitor.
Or you give it to your kid going to college. Or if you have a kid that's in their own apartment. Hey, you need a new TV? Sure. My father used to do that all the time with me. Anytime I wanted to buy something new, he'd ask me if I had something. If I said no, he goes, hey, I'm getting a new one. You want the old one? Sure.
Yeah, the problem is my kids have more up-to-date technology than we do.
Right. That's the difference now.
So it comes the other way. I get the hand-me-downs now.
When I was growing up and a young adult, technology wasn't changing as fast. It wasn't as prevalent.
Oh, well, I'm a little older than you.
Yeah. Technology used to be expensive. Now it's cheap. It's
true.
Priced to be single serving, single use.
But smartphones, some smartphones are up to $1,000. That's not cheap.
True.
It looks cheap because they put it on our monthly plans, but it's not. We just don't see the cost. Okay, so back to our TV example. So reuse could also include selling it in a garage sale or taking it to a shop that sells for a resale.
Oh, you can donate it. You can donate it.
Right. So anything that keeps it out of the waste stream.
Right.
Okay.
Most people I want to say most people are good and conscious about what their decisions are.
Yeah.
But there are some people that they were just going to throw it away.
So electronics are really good to recycle. And there are lots of electronic recycling centers. And while I didn't intend for this podcast to be about electronics recycling, this is a good topic to go down a rabbit hole on. So we're going to add this in. But you mentioned that you had some people that recycled your TVs for your company or for the area. And okay, so what do they do when they recycle it and why does that matter?
Okay, so we have a company we work with because a lot, as an electronics retailer, there's a lot of people that do upgrade their stuff. And they always inevitably have old technology, old equipment that they really can't do anything with it. And they don't just want to throw it away. They don't want to throw it into the landfill. So they'll ask us, hey, is there any way that you can haul it away and recycle it? So we say, sure. Take it to our operations center, set it out and back. And then once a week, we have this couple that comes around, picks up the old equipment, doesn't charge us for that. We don't sell it to them. We just donate it, basically. They pick it up. They take it back to their home, office, warehouse, wherever they're out of. Then they break down the equipment. They strip out any usable parts, and then they sell them on the internet for replacement parts. Because in older technology, the thought is, well, companies don't manufacture replacement parts for things anymore.
Right.
Because it's cheaper just to buy a brand new one. That's the mentality for everybody.
Yeah, I heard of people literally buying when they find something that's the same model of something they own. So like a TV could be.
They'll buy 5 or 6 of them.
Right. And I've even heard of people doing this with old cars where if they find another car that has very close or the same model, they'll keep it for the parts.
Yep.
But that makes sense since we're not manufacturing replacement parts. So our culture, our economy has moved from, we used to be in a mindset where you could fix things, you could repair things. And
yes,
we've moved away from that. There is a lot of noise to return to that model because there's a lot of jobs in repair. There's a lot of smart skills required, a lot of value. And I think one thing we saw during COVID, when it first started, when everybody was first homebound, I would see explosions on my social media feeds of people looking to fix things. So they couldn't go anywhere. Mm-hmm. So they couldn't get a new one. They couldn't take it to a repair shop. And even in our own home, we were fixing things that, and my husband's pretty handy, as you well know, but we were fixing things I'd never really even thought about fixing before.
Oh, yeah. And we saw a lot of that same thing where people needed service. The problem was, well, I know it's broke. I know you're going to have to come out and fix it. However, I don't want you in the house right now.
So what'd you do? Walk them through it on Zoom or FaceTime or something?
If it was something simple, yes. If a lot of our newer systems now, we can remote in and we can program remotely. That definitely helps. People are very appreciative of that now. You mean I don't have to run a truck? No, I can just log right in.
Right.
Okay, I see where your issue is. Here, try it now. And you're up and running again.
Well, and all these people that can't be in homes yet.
Right.
They've got to figure out ways to help their customers and their clients without.
But older systems, if we have to run a truck, it's like you're either going to be without until you can have us come in the house, or, you know, at that point, I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is. It's a balance. Like we talked about earlier, everything's a balance.
So this whole idea of repairability plays into the R's and extends the reusability of items. Mm-hmm. So it'll be interesting to see if this sticks.
Well, it's more of the conservative mindset, you know, and when I mean conservative, I mean you're conserving resources.
Right.
More of a conservation model that generations used to do.
Right.
It's only the last 20, 30 years you really see this disposable economic model.
Well, and part of that, interestingly enough, was with the advent of plastic.
Gordon Gekko, plastics.
Yeah. So I remember when we first got our first soda bottles in plastic. Okay, guys, I know I just dated myself. Go with it. But, you know, previous to that, as a little kid, Mom would give us pocket change for gathering up all the deposit bottles so she could take them to the store and get our deposits back. So I think she shared the deposits with us or something, but that was how we got pocket change. And so then we come to these, oh my gosh, isn't this cool? We can throw it on the ground and it doesn't break, plastic bottle.
Yeah.
And plastic has changed lives. I have no doubt about it. There are so many amazing uses of plastic. Plastic saved Scott's life. I mean,
yep.
There's no doubt in my mind that the medical equipment that he used.
Yeah, there's good uses, there's bad uses. It's like anything.
Right.
It's plastic itself is neutral.
Right. How we use it and how we treat it is what becomes the big concern. And a lot of that does center around really the single-use plastics, the things that we use once and then we throw away. So we're taking, forget if it's plastic or gold, we're taking a very valuable resource that we've spent energy, resources, virgin resources, that we've had to mine out of the earth, and time and money and intellectual capital to make a product that gets used for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and then vamos, gone, bye-bye. So just from a logic standpoint, that kind of sets me on my ear, because I'm like, wait, why do we do that? So this is where the refuse idea is coming to bear. And Tony and I have been talking about all kinds of things with the 3 R's, reduce. I said that backwards, didn't I? No, reduce, reuse, recycle, and now refuse. You say something all the time and you can't think about it. But this whole idea of refuse, this one's newer. And I was trying to track down if it's come about from the movement to get people to be very conscientious about their use of single-use plastics in particular. That's where I'm seeing it the most. So I'm going to go with that.
I'm sure it's been around a little bit longer than that.
It's been finding stuff back for a few years. Yeah. But it's really picked up steam in the last few years. And with COVID, some of those steps have backed off some because of sanitary conditions. And yet we keep learning about how this virus is passed. And so, we're going to say that if there's a health consideration, do what you need to do, right? I mean, that makes sense to me. But there's also a lot of times where it's just a convenience factor.
Right.
And I get it that I can't take my reusable coffee cup into the coffee shop to be refilled right now because I don't want to risk passing something to their staff and then back to me. I get that. That makes sense to me. But I'm also not going out for a lot of takeout coffee right now. So hopefully that balances out.
Yeah. And I used to be the same way. I would run into the gas station, 3-4 times a day, refill my cup for soda, just back and forth all the time. I have not been in to get a fountain soda since, St. Louis County basically said, we're not selling fountain soda for health reasons. I get it. So I take my case of soda to work and I basically fill up my reusable at work.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
Yeah. So aluminum, as much as I try not to use single-use stuff anyway, at least aluminum is highly, highly recyclable.
Yes.
And matter of fact, some companies recycle more than they actually make because they recycle other manufacturers' aluminum products as well. So aluminum cans in particular are very highly recyclable, but that's a whole nother conversation. Plastic's the big one that we're really, it's right in our face right now. And there's plastic everywhere. And when you hear it in the conversations, and a huge percentage of us are concerned about the plastic that's showing up in our food and in our water, on our beaches, out in the streets, and just the trash. And a lot of this is single-use plastic items. So what are a couple of the ones you think of?
Water bottles.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest one.
That's got to be number one. You walk in any gas station, how many refrigerator compartments are just full of water bottles?
Yeah.
You go to the grocery store.
And a lot of times the water is not any better. It's just more convenient. We used to have water fountains everywhere, and now we don't.
No, we really don't.
Yeah.
Well, and even if we did, with everything going on, are you going to drink out of a public water fountain?
You can use them.
So number one has got to be water fountain. I would say.
Now, I am seeing those bottle fill, where you refill your bottles. And I think those could probably be kept pretty hygienic.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
So number one's got to be water. Number two,
and I don't know if these are in any particular order, but I would think probably straws. Or straws or grocery bags.
Yeah, that would be up there.
And straws is very, very interesting for us because of Scott's surgeries. He needs to drink out of a straw because there was a little bit of change to how his mouth operated with all the surgeries.
Well, sure. But you can get things like metal straws.
Oh, we keep a whole supply of them in the house.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten them for him yet, but they have telescoping ones, so you can put them on your key.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. And they come with a little brush, so you can clean them out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we've got a nice collection of straws, and I've even received a few that are branded. So I've received them as promotional items.
Nice.
Yeah. And straws is a big one. We're seeing a lot more restaurants that are serving paper straws now as opposed to plastic straws. So at least.
Or they don't offer one unless you ask.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my big thing. And once somebody lays a straw on the table, even if it's wrapped, they cannot take it back.
Oh, that makes sense.
So if you're going to say no, if you're going to refuse, you got to do it before they lay it on the table. So I make a point when I order or when the server comes up to say, please, no straws, or please just one straw if Scott needs one, because we don't always remember to carry it with us as much as we try. So that's a big one, is things, so many places, especially here in the heartland, are just used to automatically putting a huge stack of napkins on the table and straws. And it's like, I don't need but 1 or 2 paper napkins. Thank you very much. But you have to ask up front.
Right.
Because once it's out, they have to throw it away. So other things would be disposable utensils. I've made a point when we've been getting takeout during COVID of asking for no utensils. I've found a couple of order apps that even ask you, do you want utensils?
Interesting.
So I thought that was very thoughtful.
See, with all this going on, literally everything I've done is grocery store, and I've bought every meal and I've made every meal.
Oh my gosh, we've been doing takeout.
I haven't done takeout at all.
But we also have a few restaurants that we wanted to really support because we didn't want them to go out of business.
Yeah.
So we have been doing takeout for the entire length of the pandemic.
Yeah, where I live, there's just really no good local restaurants right around me.
Yeah, a lot of them went to family meals, which when we were co-quarantining with my mom and my stepdad, she had shoulder surgery right at the beginning of the pandemic. We would find these family meals. So a lot of the restaurants had gone to these family meals. So they were less expensive because you got 4 of the same thing.
Right.
And they kept a lot of restaurants in business and kept them going, especially that first month or 2 of the pandemic. And it was less waste for us too, because it'd be like 1 container with all the entree and 1 container with all the salad instead of 5 different containers. So there was no perfect way to do it. We were all figuring it out. We still are.
Yep.
But again, being as smart as we can and refusing whatever you don't need. If you don't need utensils, please tell them no. And if you do need utensils, then use them and dispose of them properly. But maybe the next time you'll have your own utensils with you, or you'll take it home and use your own utensils. Plastic bags is probably the most challenging right now because there's a big debate going on whether or not reusable bags are hygienic enough. They can be, if they're easily washed, but how do you know if they're washed? So a lot of places have just said, for ease and for simplicity's sake, we're going to use our bags, which are used back.
Yeah. And that comes down to the science of everything. And we just don't know because even the people we consider experts are constantly changing their minds.
Well, and how many of us are doing pickup or delivery, and there's not a way to use your reusable bags with that. So we've been stuck in this one.
Right.
So we, as much as I hate to admit it, single-use plastic bags have been coming into our home because we do pickup for our groceries. We are quarantining them. We quarantine them out in the garage for about a week, and then we are recycling them. Our recycle pickup for bags has continued in our community. By the way, folks, make sure when you're recycling grocery bags or any kind of film that it goes into a special recycling. They can't usually go into single stream recycling in most communities because they gum up the recycling machinery, the sorting machinery. But most grocery stores, at least the big chains, have a pickup for bags.
Yeah, they'll let you drop them off. So I found other uses for mine when I go to the grocery store and get the bags. I take my lunch to work every day now. That's probably the thing I miss the most is I don't get to take clients to lunch. So
we had a lot of lunches.
it was probably 3 to 4 a week. I mean, I kept restaurants in business.
Right, there you go.
But what I'll do is I'll take that grocery bag and I will use that same bag for the week, sometimes 2, literally until it rips.
Yeah.
And then I recycle it.
So at least, at a bare minimum, do what you can to keep it out of the waste stream as long as possible. Give it as many uses rather than using one bag for every single use.
Right.
We're going to have to work together to find ways to refuse what we can and then reduce, reuse, and recycle what we can't refuse. But this is a really good time for us to re-examine our habits, for us to re-examine how we're using things, and to really try to make the best of it and find the silver lining.
Yeah, I mean, last year for the program I was in over at St. Louis University, I had to take an accounting class. And because of that class, I ended up reviewing and monitoring my daily finances. I mean, you should see the spreadsheet I use. My one friend who's a partner for Deloitte & Touche, he's like, wow, that's
I may have to borrow that from you.
Yeah, he's like, this thing's incredible. I mean, it's, regular expenses, investments, you name it. I track every cent I spend and make. I know exactly where it is at any given time at this point.
Impressive.
But because of that, I learned a lot of, do I really need that? So while we're talking about refusing and how it impacts the environment, we can also do that and see how it impacts our financial well-being.
Absolutely.
So whether it's the financial side, whether it's the environmental side, the first question always needs to be asked, do I need that?
Yep.
And if the answer is no, it makes it a lot easier to refuse an item.
And it may even be, well, I need it, but can I get it another way?
Yeah.
Can I borrow it?
Can I borrow it? Can I get it from my parents? Can I get it from my friends?
Can I get it from the library? Anyway, there's a lot of resources out there. I would love for folks to leave in the comments. If you are listening to us on your favorite podcast app, you can not only review and subscribe, you can also leave comments on many of those apps. And I'd love to hear what you guys think and what you're refusing these days. We have truly had opportunities to rethink how we live our daily lives.
I would agree with that.
Very much. Yep. Well, hey, folks, we appreciate you listening in. As always, we hope to hear you on our next episode. Hear you? Other way around. We hope you hear us on our next episode, and we appreciate you listening in.
That wraps this episode of the Everyday Green Home Podcast. Get the show notes with all the resources mentioned in this episode. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you never miss an episode. Want more? Join the Love Your Everyday Green Home private Facebook group for more resources and behind-the-scenes insights. And remember that living a little better and greener is easier than you think.